India is making a massive $20 billion bet that could literally reshape its entire economy. We're talking about one of the biggest tax cuts in the country's history, and it's a gamble that's going to affect everything from the car you might buy to the phone in your pocket. So, what's really going on here?
First up, to really get what's happening, we have to look at the sheer scale of this change. I mean, this isn't just some minor tweak to the budget. Nope. This is a fundamental rewrite of the country's tax code. So the Indian government just announced a truly landmark reform to its goods and services tax. The GST. That's the big, single, unified tax that pretty much touches every citizen and business in the country. And well, it's about to see a massive shakeup.
At the very heart of this whole thing is one single, really dramatic move. The government is completely abolishing its highest tax rate, which of course brings us to the biggest question of all. Why now?
Okay, before we get into the why, let's quickly break down what exactly is changing. The GST, which came in back in 2017, is India's unified tax system. But it's not a single flat tax, right? It's organized into these different slabs, or rates, for all sorts of different goods.
And here is the headline news. The top slab is being completely abolished. We're talking about that controversial 28% rate that was slapped on so-called luxury and sin goods. Think everything from fancy cars to big screen TVs. And now, poof, it's gone. So the question on millions of people's minds is pretty simple. What does this actually mean for my wallet? Let's dive in and see which prices are supposed to drop. Just think about some of the more expensive things you might buy. An air conditioner for that summer heat, a big new TV, maybe even a car. All of these big-ticket items are being moved out of that top 28% bracket, which should, in theory, translate directly to lower sticker prices for you.
And it's not just about luxury stuff either. The tax on a lot of everyday items is also getting slashed. Your next mobile phone, common household appliances, even some processed foods, their tax rate is being more than halved, dropping from 12% all the way down to just 5%. That's huge.
So, when does all this actually kick in? Well, the new rates are set to become effective from October 2025. And believe me, that timing is no accident. It's happening right before India's massive festival season, which is a time that always sees a huge surge in people shopping. Which brings us right back to our central question. Why do all this now? A move this big is never just about taxes. It's about strategy, it's about economics, and you better believe it's about a whole lot of politics.
The timing really seems to be a calculated response to what you could call a perfect storm of pressures. You've got looming U.S. tariffs on the horizon, growing fears of a global recession, and, of course, critical state elections where the cost of living is always a massive issue.
So at the end of the day, this tax cut is a dual-purpose signal. It's sending one message to voters, promising relief from high prices. And it's sending another message to investors, saying, hey, the government is serious about firing up the economy, no matter what challenges are coming. But here's the thing. A move that's designed to please everyone always comes at a price. And in this case, it's a massive one, turning this whole reform into a really high-stakes economic gamble. $20 billion. Just let that sink in. That's the staggering amount of annual revenue the government expects to lose from this tax cut. That is a significant hole to fill in the national budget. And right here, this is the core of that gamble. The potential reward, a huge 0.6% boost to India's GDP, which would be driven by a surge in consumer spending. But the risk is just as large. If that growth doesn't happen, the country could be staring down a dangerously widening fiscal deficit. Now, the official line, which you can see here from the finance minister, is to frame this not as a loss, but as an investment. The government is basically betting that by simplifying taxes and putting more money back in people's pockets, they'll create a stronger, more attractive economy for everyone. So, as you can probably guess, reactions are all over the place. Consumers, for their part, are hopeful for lower prices on things they need. The auto and electronics industries, they're predicting a sales boom. But the political opposition is, well, pretty skeptical, with many just dismissing it as a short-term election tactic, not a real long-term plan. So what's the final verdict here? Is this really the game changer that its supporters claim it's going to be? Will it actually alter India's entire economic path? Ultimately, it really just boils down to this one question.
Is this a brilliant political masterstroke that's going to juice the economy and win over the public? Or is it a high-risk economic experiment that could seriously backfire and strain public finances? Only time is going to tell, but you can bet the entire world will be watching.